Tonight, government has moved to calm down the nerves of university students with assurances that it has not taken any decision for them to pay utility bills next academic year. In a statement issued today, government said its policy regarding subsidy on water and electricity for tertiary students has not changed. The University Students Association and NUGS are happy about this, but how sustainable is the policy on utilities subsidies for tertiary students? Also, Cabinet has issued a directive that all educational and health institutions should be exempted from an ongoing disconnection exercise due to the critical service they provide. But is this directive something that is feasible with the current generational capacity? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, has put on hold its intended Yentua demonstration scheduled for May 11th. This follows an announcement by government that its subsidy on water and electricity for tertiary students has not changed. The back and forth started when a joint declaration on utilization and management of utilities in public tertiary education institutions on March 25th recommended that students on campuses pay for their own utility bills. Let's do a snap recap of some of the twists and turns of this story.
This injurious policy, if implemented, has the extreme potential to force several of our students out of school and put their career path in complete jeopardy. That is not all. It will be a great detriment to our brothers and sisters who wish to join us in this tertiary institution, who cannot afford to bear the cost. This definitely is not the way forward for a country that concerns it with developing and equipping its human capital based for development. It is solemnly against this backdrop that we, the students of University of Ghana, with joint effort with Confederacy of Tertiary Institution students across the length and breadth of the country, to want to register a non-negotiable stand against this disastrous policy. Our position is unblemished and straight. Ladies and gentlemen, we bear in mind that the current crop of leaders we have during their days in universities, they enjoy free education, they enjoy free accommodation, they chew our chicken for free. They chew, ladies and gentlemen, they chew our chicken for free. And as such, the leaders of the country, they have no moral right or whatsoever to bear these students with the utility fees. We are here therefore invoking the spirit of the leaders in those days who provided them free education and free accommodation to support our cause to fight against this particular policy. We will oppose with vehemence at our disposal any such effort by government to force the hands of students to bear the arrears of utility bills or by the universities as consequences of failure on the part of government of Ghana. Point 4. We will on this coming Monday, May 11, 2015, embark on a peaceful demonstration characterized with grave display of intellectual maturity to register our displeasure on government impervious and insensitive intention to shirk its responsibilities of paying utility bills.
Right, that tells you the passion with which the National Union of Ghana students took a position against what government later described as rumors. This came about as a result of stakeholders meeting. After a stakeholders meeting, some recommendations were made for students and lecturers who live on campuses to pay for their own utility bills. Let's get onto the telephone line. We're trying to raise the NUGS president, Prosper Giche, on the telephone line so that we'll do some discussions over this. But all this has changed because government issued a statement today to tell everyone that its position on subsidies for water and electricity for tertiary students has not changed. Let me run you through quickly the government statement and then we'll continue our discussion. The Ministry of Education wishes to reiterate that government has not taken any decision for students in tertiary institutions to pay utility bills in the next academic year. As such, As such, government policy regarding subsidy on water and electricity for tertiary students has not changed. The Minister for Education, Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, speaking at a recent Campus Connect program held at Accra Polytechnic on Wednesday, April 29, asked students to disregard any such rumor about utility bills. The statement continues to say, consequently, the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, demanded for an official letter to support what they described as the verbal assurances by the minister. The said letter conveying government position on utility bills has been addressed to the leadership of NUGS since yesterday, and the statement also said, meanwhile, Cabinet has also issued a new directive that all educational and health institutions be exempted from the disconnection exercise currently ongoing in some tertiary institutions in view of the critical services they provide to the citizenry. So that's the end of the statement. Now let's get on to the telephone line. NUGS President Prosper Diche, who joins us now. Good evening, sir. Thanks for your time.
Good evening.
So we acknowledge the fact that you just issued a statement today to more like suspend the May 11 Yentua demonstration which you scheduled, and this you've gone on to explain. But I want to ask you why you did not engage this process a bit further and you quickly went ahead to more like threaten government on a standpoint which the education minister had referred to as a rumor.
You want to know why we have gone on to threaten, or you want to know why we have gone on to...
No, I'm saying that NUGS, among other things, issued an ultimatum to government to review its policy on students paying utility bills. I'm asking that since the recommendations of the joint stakeholder meeting came out, the minister later went on to say it was a rumor, more like dismissing that it was an official government position. I'm asking whether you went on any further deliberations with government to seek a better understanding of this before issuing your threat to go on the Yentua demonstration. I hope I made myself clear.
Yes. Let me say good evening to your listeners.
That's right.
And especially to students and leaders across the country. I'll say that yes, indeed, we have tried to, as much as engage with the stakeholders, but there have always been contradictory reports out there. And that is what we seek to let government actually clarify. As the letter that was dated on that's 30th of April 2016.
That's right.
Because I remember I was at Accra Polytechnic when the minister actually made a clarification in relation to this very matter. But we believe so much that we need documents, we need official statements actually stating that this is the official position of government. I thought that we had a National Executive Committee meeting, which comprises of all the block presidents and 5 national officers.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
at the end of the day, we resolved that verbal assurance was not enough. So it would be better for the ministry to actually send a letter or give us a letter stating the position of the government in relation to this. But you see, we cannot put all our eggs in one basket. So while negotiating, while looking at the other side too, we're prepared, looking at the fact that very few students start exams and some go on vacation and all that. It's just important that we explore all other avenues in making sure that this policy does not actually stand the test and if there's any.
Right. So, Prosper, I'll have you hold briefly. We're also joined on the line by the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Education, Francis Gadago. Good evening, Francis, and we're very grateful that you could join us.
Thank you very much, Steve. The name is Francis Badago.
Badago, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation of your name. So the students are actually happy and commending government for quickly resolving to clarify this issue on the subsidy for electricity. Are you able to tell us perhaps what informed the decision to issue out this clarity in the first place?
Thank you very much, Steve. And very good evening to your viewers and the listeners, of course. I must say that this particular clarity was earlier made by the minister at the recent Campus Connect program at Accra Polytechnic.
Okay.
Especially when the rumor started. And so the minister, addressing the students at that particular meeting, assured them that indeed there wouldn't be anything of that nature. But then, just as the NUGS president, Prosper Tite, has stated, subsequently they stated that no, that was just verbal assurance. And so there will be the need for the ministry to give them a formal letter. And so that particular letter was issued, was addressed to them as at yesterday. And so this is just to reiterate the fact that indeed the position by government on the payment of utilities still stands.
I mean, I know that the University Students Association of Ghana, in its response to you, made mention of the fact that, well, let me just quickly read what they said. The University Students Association of Ghana would like to, on this day, commend the government for responding positively to its press conference, which was organized on 1st May 2015. So is it like the students' press statement and what appears to be the threat to go on demonstration possibly was one of the reasons government decided to act over this matter?
I do not think so, Steve. Because the Minister for Education made the statement or gave the clarity on the 29th of April 2015. And to my understanding, the USAC held a press conference on May 1 or so.
That's right.
And so one cannot say that there was a threat from the students' front, and so the government has decided to do this. No.
All right. So
this is just to emphasize the point made by the minister since last week.
Right. Let me just quickly. You made reference of the fact that the NUGS demanded an official letter to support what they described as verbal assurances by the minister. So, in other words, what I need clarity on the statement is that it does appear that the Ministry of Education is determined not to make the students go away with misconceptions. So, after the minister's assurances, you still went ahead to issue this statement and also wrote a letter to them. Are you happy that this has arrived, or this stance has been as a result of fruitful deliberations between both NUGS and yourselves?
Of course, that is commendable. First of all, let me also commend USAC and, of course, NUGS, the umbrella body of students in Ghana, for taking such a position. Students have always been stakeholders in the education sector, and so at all times, definitely we just have to judge and then come to a consensus on so many issues. And we believe that this position that has come out is in the good interest of all of us. So it's a good news.
Right. Francis, we're grateful for your time. I'm sure we don't have a lot to discuss with you since you've clarified the basic points that are captured in this press statement. Francis Badago is the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Education. And later on in the show, we will be discussing an element of the press statement in which it says that Cabinet has also issued a new directive that all educational and health institutions be exempted from the disconnection exercise currently ongoing. We'll be asking an energy consultant whether this is feasible under the circumstance of our current energy shortfalls. I have in the studio now a representative from the University Students Association. He's actually the press International Relations Secretary, Nana Otu Dako. How are you, sir? And thanks for coming.
I'm fine. Many thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I realized that quickly the moment the government issued a statement, you also issued a statement to commend government and all of this. Was it not too quick?
Well, not at all. We think that the government was timely, and in as much as our initial stance was to, excuse my language, bastardize government on such a claimed position. It was only proper and fair that we equally commend government as timely as we could regarding that matter.
So you use an expression which I want to pick up on, that your earlier stance sought to bastardize government. But why did you take an earlier stance which was harsh if you had not gone further to engage government on the issues and get a fairer understanding of what the position really is?
Actually, we had a fair understanding. We did a critical analysis of the whole issue. If you monitor the airwaves, the University Student Association of Ghana umbrella came out with a press conference very late. Why? Because we needed to get our fact right. We didn't want to do anything amounting to a cacophony, because every student is speaking, then as a mother, you come out. No. What we did was that we went to the Deputy Minister in charge of Tertiary, his office, that is Honorable Kujitua Blakwa, and that was when he explained to us that that wasn't government position, and that the 25th March UPSA declaration was, supposed even to go to cabinet, after which, even when it has got some legal element, then it will be referred to Parliament before it even receives a presidential assent. Then it becomes a government position. So when we had that fair understanding, we decided to keep mute because we were on the same page. But later on, we then had some other, ministers of state. Case in point is the Deputy Minister of Interior, Honorable Agaga, and he was saying that the likelihood of students going to foot the cost of their whole utility bills
was high.
Yes, was high, and
which went against the discussions.
Exactly. So we're then left in a state of quandary, and so being a state of dilemma, we then had to do a press conference and as it were,
set the record straight.
Set the record straight and let government come out clearly as to how it stands where, because we gave some analysis as to why we will be unable to pay.
Now, this stakeholder meeting, UPSA declaration, which took place in March, brought out salient issues.
Exactly.
I mean, for example, the recommendation that students should be made to pay their own utility bills because the 70% who live in private hostels pay anyway. This is not so unfair. Wouldn't you say that? Because if you live on campus, you don't pay. But if you live off campus and you live in a private private hostel, you pay. Where is the unfairness?
We are not oblivious of this fact, setting that as a premise. But let me answer this by saying that we believe that we pay already. Look, we know the history books, and as it were, from 1948, when the first University of Ghana College was established, now University of Ghana, successive government have been footing the bills of education until it got to 1997, which came out with the Akosombo Accord, when it came to light that successive government would be unable to foot, the cost of education alone, considering, the high rate of population growth and so on. So in the first place, we agree in principle that students must share costs with university authorities or with other stakeholders, being government and so on. But you see, in our instance, why we believe that we are paying already is that we did a sharp survey, and it will interest you to know that it came to light that on average, not less than 400 Ghana cedis is being charged for a single room. And I can use the University of Ghana as an example. If you use the diaspora halls, being Alexander's, Kwapo and Elizabeth, say you have two in a room where they are charged 4,000 Ghana cedis academic year. I'm doing extrapolations of divisions. It means that a month, a student is paying for that single room not less than 500 Ghana cedis. And my brother, I think that it's only fair to conclude that you can't charge me 500 Ghana cedis for a single room a month, and you think that does not cater for my water bill, that does not cater for my light bill. So what we told Honorable Kujuta Blakwa is that in sharing in that grief, then they should go back to the university authorities, because look, all those monies generated, they are IGF, internally generated fund, which does not go back to government. So they should go back to them. So at least 300 cedis, for instance, will be used for the residential facility. Then the other 200, 100 for water bill, 100 for light bill. So we share in that. But for additional costs, that I think is very difficult to bear.
You were not happy about. So now you are happy that government seemed to say that, hey, hang on, don't get too perturbed about this. We're taking care of all your concerns, and now you don't have to pay utility bills. You're happy, but you also have to take into consideration the fact that the current energy shortfalls affects everybody. And a university population of several thousands, your consumption is extremely high. So you, as a union, should be advising your students to also perhaps conserve energy.
I think that just for time, you will not be able to read the last commentary of what the press conference entails. Otherwise, it would have come to bear that we were admonishing our students, to conserve energy. We said in our press release that you have in hand that he who seeks equity must equally come with clean hands. Who is government? Government is not only Nana Akufo-Addo or President John Mahama or Pakosi Ndumo or any other political party or leaders. Government starts with we, the citizens, and who are seeking to become leaders of our country. So in as much as we want government to do the right thing, it is also incumbent on us to do what is right. And that we told them that we can't leave leave our ceiling fans flying. We can't leave our lights on, and so on. And at the end of the time, when there is doom, so we turn around to blame. So we all have a part to play. But you see, the issue that we are talking about now, I think 2 years ago, if not a year, it cropped up. And this is my source of worry. I don't know if government always want to test the waters to see the balls of student leaders. And it's quite bad. You understand? You need not want to test us to see if we are going to react or not before you pull. This matter shouldn't have come, you know, to the scene at all. Especially when, you know, excuse my language, we have some ministers of state in this country, I stand for correction, who do not foot the cost of their own utilities. They call that conditions of service. And if such honorable ministers who are on fat salaries are unable to foot the cost of their own utilities, then respectfully, what makes them think that we students who are economically vulnerable will be able to foot the cost of our utilities?
Right,
I think it's logically inconclusive.
We're still trying to get onto the telephone line, the NUGS president, to join our discussion. We'll also be getting onto the telephone. Kojo Poku is an energy expert to have a discussion on that element of the press statement from the Ministry of Education, which informs us that Cabinet has instructed that tertiary institutions and hospitals, among other service providers, should be exempted from the current disconnection exercise due to the critical service they provide. We have Kojo Poku on the line now. Kojo Poku, good evening, sir. Thanks for your time.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry we held you on for a little while. Now, the statement from the Ministry of Education makes it emphatic that Cabinet has instructed that I want to read it exactly. The Cabinet has issued a directive that all educational and health institutions be exempted from the disconnection exercise currently ongoing in view of the critical service they provide. Do you think this is feasible?
Well, it depends when you say feasible. You see, a government has had government has shouldered this responsibility for some time now. And if the only problem is the arrest which exists and ECG wants to be viable, so this exercise of going around to collect people who are in indebtedness, if government feels that it can find a way of shouldering that burden forward, then I don't see why they shouldn't. I would have thought that all the stakeholders would have sat down and come to a conclusion how to make some of these MDAs way of revenue mobilization to be able to take care of their own bills. But if government still want to shoulder that responsibility, that means it has a way of basically mobilizing revenue to pay. I would have thought that especially the education facilities, the universities, the tertiary, the universities have been collecting international fees from these our brothers from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and all across West Africa for a while. And I'm sure all these extra revenue coming into the university should be used to be able to offset some of these electricity bills that or the utility bills that university has. There are other facilities on campus, which are some of the banks and all these people on campus. They also the university takes the electricity bills from these facilities on campus. So I think there should be a more of an innovative way of revenue mobilization to be able to help government pay some of these utilities. But if government is asking that it still want to continue shouldering that debt, why not? Maybe it has a way of cushioning.
So seriously, I mean, I am concerned about whether I'm not only concerned, I beg your pardon, I'm not only concerned about whether government can pay this debt, but the key issue is whether we have the generational capacity to go on supplying to tertiary institutions and hospitals because we think the services they provide are critical.
No, generation capacity is there. I mean, hospitals and all the facilities that you've mentioned, we are in a situation of doomsday because in nationwide we are behind in terms of what the national capacity is supposed to be. But you know, if you look at the critical areas, hospitals are critical. So even if we have 100 megawatts, I'm sure we'd rather give Kolebu than to give a household because of the nature of the activities that happens in Kolebu. So in the nation can always find the capacity to keep the hospitals running and the universities and the secondary schools in terms of their exams week and stuff like that. Because in terms of scale of preference, they would come first before residential.
But Mr. Poku, let me cut you in briefly. I mean, in these times of doomsaw that government also owes ECG so much, I mean, can ECG continue to provide services to these institutions who owe it a lot of money?
Right, that is the point I'm trying to get across. That example I wanted to give is I'll give you University of Ghana as an example. University of Ghana is a bulk customer. Okay, it means that the whole of University of Ghana has 1 meter. Okay, now whatever the electricity bill for University of Ghana is, the school has other ways of generating money. It doesn't necessarily have to show that, have to pass on that bill to the ordinary student. We've had overseas students or school-paying students. They've had a lot of ingenious way of collecting monies or revenue generation for about 4 or 5 years to 10 years by now.
So you are suggesting that they should use some of this to pay off all the indebtedness to government?
Why not?
Yeah.
Instead of passing that, saying that government should show that when government also has to be the one paying all the fees and the salaries and all those things, the university, if they want to increase, if students, ordinary students, like I'll give you an example, if somebody gets 7-1, he is admitted as an ordinary student, okay? If somebody does not get 7-1 and a person gets, let's say, 15, the person is a fee-paying student because he didn't pass, he didn't get the entry requirement. If you're a fee-paying student, then I don't think you will complain if you are asked to pay, instead of paying 1,000 cedis, you're asked to pay 1,400.
Right, Mr. Poku, I'm afraid that we'll run out of time, so we'll have the discussion a lot more further as the day goes on. Thanks very much for your time on today's big story. Yeah, and so Nana Tudako, I'll give you the final word. 30 seconds. What's next?
Okay, what we want to use the opportunity to tell the external world, especially the member institutions of USAC, is that we've heard that some institutions plan demonstrations and all that. They wanted to go on rampages to press home or drum home their demand. Initially, it was the song.
It was the position you supported,
yes, but now
you're
government
asking
has
them
responded.
to.
So we want them to drop it and
be patient
move forward.
and move on. All right. So Nana Tudako, we're grateful for your time. I'm afraid we couldn't raise onto the telephone line. The NUGS president, NUGS, has also issued a statement in which it is offered a few more clarifications on what appears to be a miscommunication between NUGS and the Ministry of Education. My name is Stephen Anti, and we'll be right back with Joe News Interactive. Do stay.